Alright everyone, time for the final episode of Review of the Day, which is Bloodlust. A girl is running through the woods, apparently being chased by something. She trips once but gets back up and keeps going. She then hides behind a tree. She doesn't hear anything, so she starts to come out from behind it. There's nothing there. Suddenly, she turns around and there's someone standing behind her, holding a long curved knife. The hooded person chops the girl's head off, and the body falls down. Dean and Sam were driving down the road in the Impala. Dean whoops the comments on how the engine sounds so sweet. Sam says, if you two want to get a room, just let me know, Dean. Dean tells his car not to listen, as Sam doesn't understand them. Sam says that Dean's in a good mood. Dean asks, why shouldn't I be? Got my car, got a case, things are looking up. Sam comments that you give Dean a couple of separate heads and a pile of dead cows, and he's Mr. Sunshine. Dean laughs and asks him how far it is to Red Lodge. Sam answers that it's about another 300 miles. The sheriff telling the boys that the murder investigation is still happening, and that's all he can share with them. Dean and Sam are in suits again, pretending to be working for a paper. Sam asks him if he found the last separate head last week, and the sheriff nods. The other one was found 2 days ago. A girl comes in and taps her watch, and the sheriff says the time is up. They're done. Dean quickly jumps in with one more question. He asks about the cattle that was split open, drained, and apparently there were over a dozen cases. Sam asks him if there's a connection. He says that the cattle mutilations and severed heads sound like ritual stuff. Like satanic cult ritual stuff? Dean puts in. The sheriff looks at them, then laughs, and realizes they're serious. He tells them that the cattle aren't being mutilated. He says that a cow drops dead and stays in the sun for 48 hours, it splits itself open. It looks so clean it could be surgical. He asks him what paper they work for again, and Dean stumbles over the name and gets it wrong, while Sam corrects him. Dean quickly says he's new, but the sheriff doesn't believe them and tells them to get out of his office. Dean and Sam are in a morgue, dressed in white lab coats. They go into another room, and there's a guy there. Dean tells him that the doctor needs to see him in his office right away. The guy says the doctor's on vacation, but Dean says, well, he's back, and he's pissed. He's screaming for you, man. So if I were you, The guy quickly leaves, looking worried. Dean then asks Sam if the Satanists in Florida marked their victims. Sam replies yes, on the forehead. They pull out a box, and Dean tells him to open it. Sam won't, though, and Dean calls him a wuss. He opens it himself. They don't find any mark on the head of the box, and Dean suggests they look at her mouth to see if the murderer stuffed anything down her throat. Sam tells him to go ahead, and Dean replies he can't, and Sam says, I'm the wuss? Sam starts reaching in the mouth, and he says, Dean, get me a bucket. Dean asks him if he found something, but he says no, he's going to puke. Sam pulls his hand out, but then Dean says he thinks he saw something. He reaches the bucket and sees a hole in the girl's gums. Dean presses it, and a fang comes out. A retractable set of vampire fangs. You've got to be kidding me, he says. Sam says, this changes things. And Dean replies sarcastically, you think? Sam and Dean go into a bar and head up to the counter. They order a couple of beers, and Sam tells them they're looking for someone. They hand him some money, and they tell him that these people would have moved here about 6 months ago and would sleep all day, party all night. Meanwhile, we see a man in a corner watching them. The bartender tells them that he's seen some people like that, noisy drinkers. They come in once or twice. Dean and Sam thank him and leave. And as they do, we see that the man in the corner is gone. The boys walk out of the bar. We see the man from the bar follow them. He goes around the back of the bar after them, but they're gone. He turns around, and nothing. He turns back around, and Dean and Sam are there. And Dean has a knife to his throat. He asks him to show him his teeth, and the guy replies he's not a vampire. He says he heard them talking inside, and he knows how to kill vampires. When they don't move back, he shows them his teeth and they let him go. Then he asks them who they are. Sam D. Winchester, the man, whose name is Gordon, says while pulling out a big rack of weapons from his car. I can't believe it. You know what your old man wants? Hell of a guy. Great hunter. Heard he passed. I'm sorry. He seems to know a lot about their family and tells them that word travels fast. You know hunters talk, he says. Dean says they actually don't. Gordon says he guesses that there was a lot their dad never told them. Sam asks him if the 2 vampires that were killed were his. He replies yes. Dean asks him where the nest is. He tells him that he has this one covered. He tells him he's been here for 2 weeks. He found a vampire in Austin and dragged it all the way here and found the nest. He says he'll finish it himself. Dean says they can help, but he declines, saying he'd rather do it alone. Dean tells him he's itching for a hunt, but still Gordon says no. He tells them about a chupacabra they can take care of, and then gets in his car. It was real good meeting you, though. I'll buy you a drink on the flip side. He drives away. A man is sitting in a mill and suddenly hears something. He gets up and walks outside. He looks around cautiously, and suddenly Gordon is behind him, and they start to fight. The man's teeth comes out. He's a vampire. Gordon is soon overpowered, and the vampire puts his head under a saw he turned on and starts to pull it down. Suddenly Gordon is pulled out from under it by Sam, and Dean starts to attack the vampire. He stabs it in the chest and then brings down the saw on its neck, killing it. Gordon says, "So, I guess I gotta buy you that drink." Sam, Dean, and Gordon are all sitting around. Dean and Gordon are drinking, but Sam is just sitting there. Gordon compliments Dean on how he killed the vampire, and Dean thanks him. They ask him if he's alright. Sam says he's fine. "Have another one, Sammy," says Gordon. And Sam replies that Dean is the only one who's allowed to call him that. Gordon says he didn't mean any offense. He was just celebrating. Sam says that decapitations aren't his idea of a good time. Gordon says it's not as if it was human. He tells him he's got to have some more fun with the job. Dean says he was trying to tell him that, and he could learn a thing or two from Gordon. "Yeah, I bet I could," says Sam, and says he's going back to the motel. Dean tosses him the keys. Gordon asks if there's something he said, but Dean replies that Sam just gets that way sometimes. Sam goes to the motel and puts the keys on the desk. Dean is telling Gordon about something he killed when he was only 16. "So I pick up this crossbow and hit that ugly sucker with a silver-tipped arrow right in his heart." Sam was in the car. Me and my dad, we take that thing into the woods. Burn too crisp. I'm sitting there looking into the fire and thinking to myself, I'm 16 years old. Kids my age are worried about pimples, prom dates. I'm seeing things they'll never even know, never even dream of. I guess that's when I sort of embrace the life, puts in Gordon, and Dean nods. Then asks him how he got started. Gordon tells him that he saw his first vampire when he was 18. He says he was home alone with his sister and it came into a room. He says he got his dad's gun and ran in and tried to get it off her. Too late, so he shot the damn thing, which of course was about as useful as stabbing him with a rubber band. He says that it flung him across the room and knocked him out cold. He says that when he woke up, the vampire was gone and his sister was gone. He says he left home, looked around for information about how to kill them, and then he found the vampire. "It was my first kill," he says. Dean says he's sorry about Gordon's sister. Gordon says it was a long time ago, and then says, "Your dad, it's gotta be rough." Dean replies, "Yeah, he was just one of those guys. Took some terrible beatings, but never gave up." So you're saying to yourself, he's indestructible. He'll always be around. Nothing can kill my dad. And just like that, Dean snaps his fingers. He's gone. Looks at Gordon. "I can't say this to Sammy. Gotta keep my game face on. But the truth is, I'm not handling very well. I feel I have this hole inside you," Gordon says. "It just gets bigger and bigger and darker and darker. Good. You can use it. Trust me. There's plenty out there that needs killing. This will help you do it, Dean. It's not a crime to need your job." Sam calls Ellen. She says it's good to hear from him and asks if everything's okay. He says everything's fine and asks her if she knows a man named Gordon Walker. She says she does. He's a good hunter. She asks him why he's asking. He tells her they ran into him on a job and they're kind of working together. She tells him not to do that, as Gordon is dangerous to everyone and everything around him. She says if he's working on a job, then they better just let him handle it and move on. Gordon and Dean are still talking. Gordon says he loves this life because it's all black and white. There's no maybe. You find the bad thing, you kill it. He says most people spend their lives in shades of gray, but not them. Dean says he's not sure Sam would agree with him. Gordon says he doesn't think Sam is much like them. Dean looks at him and Gordon says, "I'm saying he's wrong, just different. You and me, we were born to do this. It's in our blood." Dean looks unsure. Sam is outside a drink machine. Sam's outside at a drink machine. He hears something in the bushes and quickly goes back to the motel. He gets inside and then laughs at himself a bit. He puts down his drink and suddenly someone attacks from behind. He's defending himself pretty well until he's hit over the head with a phone from behind. He's knocked out. Sam wakes up with the back of his head tied up and gagged. The bag is pulled off and he recognizes the bartender from the bar they were in. His fangs come out. He's a vampire. He starts to come at Sam when suddenly a girl's voice says, "Wait." The vampire pulls back and there's a girl standing at the doorway. She comes over and takes the gag off Sam. "My name's Lenore. I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to talk to you." Sam says he might have been trouble paying attention to anything but Eli's teeth. She says he won't hurt him either. He has her word. Sam doesn't believe her, and she's not the first vampire he's met. She tells him they're not like the others. They don't kill humans, and they don't drink their blood. They haven't for a long time. Sam asks if some sort of joke, and she says, "Notice you're still alive." Lenore tells him that they found other ways to eat, cattle blood. She says it's disgusting, but it allows him to get by. She says if there's no deaths, no missing locals, then there's no reason for people like Sam to come looking for them. Eli starts getting mad, saying that tonight they murdered Conrad, and they're celebrating. She tells him that's enough. What's done is done. Sam asks him why she's talking to him, and she says she'd rather not, but she knows his kind. They'll just keep tracking the vampires. She wants to stop following them. She says they have a right to live. They're not hurting anyone. Sam asks her why he should believe her, and she says fine. She's going to let him go. Sam is taken back out of the house blindfolded, and they drive him back to the motel. Dean and Gordon are looking at a map. Gordon shows him where he thinks the nest is. Dean checks his watch and wonders where Sam is. Gordon says he probably went out for a walk. It seems like that type of guy. Dean says he is. Suddenly Sam walks in the door. Dean asks him where he's been, and Sam asks to talk to him alone. Dean goes outside with him, leaving Gordon inside. Sam tells Dean they have to rethink the hunt. He tells him that he was at the nest. Dean asks how many he killed, and Sam says none. Dean says, They didn't just let you go. That's exactly what they did," replies Sam. He tells Dean he doesn't know where it is, though, as he was blindfolded. He does know that they went over the bridge outside of town, though. He tells Dean he doesn't think like there are other vampires. He tells him that the vampires are the ones doing the cattle mutilations. That's how they live. Dean doesn't believe him. He says he has to find them and kill them. Sam says no. Gordon is standing just outside the door and listening, but they don't see him. Dean tells them if it's supernatural, they kill it. It's their job. Sam says no. Their job is hunting evil, and these things aren't evil. Dean replies that Gordon has been on the vampires for a year, he knows. Sam tells that Ellen says he's bad news. Dean says he's not listening to Ellen. They barely know her. Sam says, "Right, because Gordon's such an old friend." You don't know what I think this is? What are you talking about?" asks Dean. "He's a substitute for Dad, isn't he? A poor one." Dean starts to walk away, but Sam follows him. You slept with this big fake smile, but I can see right through it. Because I know how I feel, Dean. Dad's dead. I left a hole and it hurts so bad you can't take it. But you just can't fill up that hole with whoever you want. It's an insult to his memory." Dean starts to turn away, and then he punches Sam in the face. Sam tells him he can hit him all he wants, but it's not going to change anything. Dean tells him he's going to the nest. He'll find it himself. They go back in and find that the keys to Dean's car and Gordon are gone. They go after him by hotwiring the Impala. Sam says the bridge was 4.5 minutes from the farm. He counted. He knows all the directions. Dean tells him he's good. A pain in the ass, but good. Lenore is packing. Eli says they have to stay and fight, but Lenore says no. She says there's more where those three came from. She says she's not going to give up hope. She says if they change, then hundreds can change. She tells him to gather the others. They're leaving before sunrise. Gordon is driving to the nest. Sam and Dean are close behind him. Lenore is packing the truck. She hears something and looks around. Gordon is behind her. He stabs her at the chest with a knife. "Dead man's blood," he says. Gordon has Lenore tied up, and he's cutting her with a knife, dipping in dead man's blood. Dean and Sam come in. Gordon says he's going to get Lenore to tell him where the rest of them are. He tells them they can help. Just grab a knife. Dean says they should just chill out. Sam tells Gordon to put the knife down, and Gordon says it sounds like it's Sam who needs to chill. Sam tells him to stop. Gordon says Sam's right. He's wasting his time. She'll never talk. He might as well put her out of her misery. He pulls out a long knife. Sam whispers and Gordon puts the knife at Sam. Dean tells him to stop. He says that the vampire that killed his sister deserved to die, but Gordon tells Dean that the vampire didn't kill his sister. It changed her, and hunted her down and killed her. Dean is shocked. Sam realizes that Gordon knew all along that the vampires weren't killing anyone. Gordon says that vampires don't change. He says he can prove it, and grabs Sam's arm and cuts it. Dean aims a gun at Gordon, but Gordon says he isn't going to kill Sam. He He just wants to make a point. He puts Sam's arm over Lenore's mouth and his blood drips onto her. The vampire fangs come out, and she is growling and hissing. Gordon says they're all the same, evil, bloodthirsty. Lenore's fangs retract and she says, "No, no." Sam pushes Gordon away. "You hear her?" He unties Lenore and takes her out. Dean says that he thinks Gordon and he should have some things to talk about. Dean says if he wants the vampires, he has to go through him. Gordon puts down his knife, and Dean puts away his gun. They start to fistfight. Gordon grabs his knife again anyway, comes at Dean. But Dean manages to knock it out of his hand. Gordon says that Dean's not like his brother. He's a killer like him. They're still fighting, and Dean gets the upper hand. He ties up Gordon and says, "I know, I might be like you, and I might not. We're the one tied up right now." It's morning now. Sam comes back in. Dean is still standing with Gordon. Sam asks if he missed anything, and Dean replies nothing much. He says he'll call someone in a couple of days to come and untie him. Sam asks if he's ready to go, and Dean says not yet. He punches Gordon one more time, and then says he's ready to go. The boys leave the nest, and Dean says to Sam that he can hit him. He says Sam can have a freebie. Sam says Dean looks as if he just went 12 rounds with a block of cement, and he'll take a rain check. Dean says he wishes they never took this job. Sam asks him why, and Dean says he wonders how many things they have killed that didn't deserve it. I mean, the way Dad raised us. Sam says after Mom died, Dad did the best he could. Dean says he knows, but the man wasn't perfect. He raised us to hate those things, and man, I hate them. I do. When I killed that vampire in the mill, I didn't even think about it. Hell, I even enjoyed it. You didn't kill Lenore, says Sam. Yeah, but every instinct told me to. I was going to kill her. I was going to kill them all. Yeah, Dean, but you didn't. That's what matters, says Sam. Yeah, says Dean. Because you're a pain in my ass. Sam smiles. Because I had to stick around and be a pain in the ass then, says Sam. He starts to get in the car. Thanks, says Dean. Don't mention it, says Sam. Dean looks back at the house for a few seconds, then he gets in his car. They drive away. Good. So now let's take a look at some continuity surrounding this episode. This is the first appearance of Gordon Walker. This is the first appearance of Lenore. First episode with the mention of the Winchester brothers' notoriety. This is the first time Sam and Dean encounter friendly monsters. Ellen Harville previously appeared in Everybody Loves a Clown. Dean again makes mention of the hole inside him, which Gordon misinterprets for bloodlust and vengeance. Gordon Walker later returns as a recurring antagonist before ironically getting turned into a vampire himself and killed. Lenore briefly returns to Mommy Dearest before being mercy killed by Castiel at her own request. Despite Bobby believing the Impala was damaged beyond repair during My Time of Dying, Dean has fully repaired it by this episode. The case in this episode is apparently the first time he's driven it since its repairs, given the comments he makes. And now let's take a look at some trivia. It was actually in this episode that Jared Padalecki broke his hand. He fell his wrong hand in the scene where Sam is hit over the head with a telephone. Ty Olsson, the actor who plays Benny Lafayette in Season 8, plays Eli, who makes his first appearance at the 7:10 mark. Ironically, both characters he plays are vampires of similar type. Ones that don't feed on humans, though Eli feeds on cows and Benny feeds on bagged blood. Amber Benson, who plays the vampire Lenore this episode, has a recurring role as the witch Tara in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. When Sam and Dean corner Gordon in the alley, he tells Sam, "Whoa, easy there, Chachi." He's referring to the title character of the 1980s TV sitcom Joanie Loves Chachi, which was a spin-off of the 1970s sitcom Happy Days. And now finally, let's take a look at some errors. When Dean kills a vampire, blood is sprayed on his face, mostly in his right cheek. At the next shot, the pattern is different, and notably the right cheek is almost clean. After Gordon cuts Sam's arm, two drops of blood fall onto Lenore's face. When Sam later helps her up, his blood is gone from her face. When Sam was let out of the vampire's house with the bag over his head to the car after he's captured, just before he's put into the car, you could briefly see his hands that are meant to be tied behind his back. There was something tied in his hands. He was just holding his hands together. It's assumed that his hands were meant to be hidden in the shot so they cut corners, but the stain were visible, showing that they were not actually tied. That's interesting. So overall, I think this episode is actually pretty good, and yeah, the fact that they're actually friendly vampires, yeah, that's a little bit different from what you normally expect, so yeah. So overall, I give Bloodlust. 4 Impalas out of 5. Well, anyway, tune in tomorrow as we take the next episode. Children shouldn't play with dead things. So, until then, carry on, my wayward sons and daughters.